back in the garage. Buzz Rankin with my compadre and bro,
the Common Patriot.
Woohoo!
Promised everybody we'd be back Wednesday.
We's back, and it's a nipply 55 degrees outside. Yes, in Florida, we classify that as nipply, only because we're not used to 55 degrees. So, hey, welcome to Garage Politics. We are back, and we're recording this week's episode. We're excited about it. Patriot's got all kinds of good stuff.
Look, notes.
Ooh. Ooh. We're getting sophisticated here as we've stepped up to notes, but we want to remind everybody at the beginning of the show, yes, we are online in several locations, and the main source of that be GaragePolitics.com.
You know, it worked out great. It worked out great on Monday because, we obviously we didn't do the show Monday night, had some stuff going on. Buzz was busy, lots of stuff happening.
Shame on Buzz.
So I posted to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I posted on the website. And I did not post anything interesting on YouTube or Rumble, but all the places where people normally go.
People responded like,
people responded.
Man,
they were happy,
we're sorry to hear that.
At least they knew that we were, we weren't just disappearing.
That's right. Our fan base of 7 listeners actually reached out to us.
Look, there's more than 7 listeners.
I know that.
Okay, well, don't.
It's an actual fan base. Fan.
Don't minimize it, man. You're hurting my feelings.
It's geofencing. Anyways. So we want to remind you, hop on over to GaragePolitics.com. As you can see there's all kinds of fun little links to all our social media sites. And so what are the main one we're targeting? Rumble?
Well,
Rumble? No?
No, look, here's the thing. This is how we're going to do it, okay? No matter what, we will be posted to all of it, okay?
There you go.
Rumble is what you see there on our Facebook or on our website.
Get
okay?
it straight, man.
That is
Come
the
on.
Rumble video feed there because ultimately we want to do the Rumble thing because I think there's less chance of us getting banned or having problems on Rumble.
Probably.
Okay, so we want to focus on Rumble.
Because one of these weeks, you or I are going to say something that the Facebook police or YouTube police go, oh my gosh, they hurt someone's feelings with that. We got to get that off of there.
I think the sad thing is right now, nobody, not YouTube, none of them care. Twitter, anybody.
They're
They
like,
could
who
care
are
less.
these
They got
guys?
like 5 followers or something. They don't care.
I mean, it would have been different if it was 10 years ago when we were actually going strong.
That's the problem.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
the problem is the moment we actually start reaching people, when we start getting, several thousand subscribers at some point or viewers or what have you, if that ever happens.
Right. Okay.
That's the point where they come get you and they're like, okay, shut them down. That's enough of that. And so we always want Rumble to be the post. Now, what I'm doing is I've been going through trying to find out, reading articles and everything, trying to find out, okay, how do you promote your videos on YouTube? How do you get a farther reach? How do you properly structure the description and the title and all this nonsense? So, but at the moment, I'm focusing on YouTube with that, trying to learn that. So we post to both of them anyway. And there's not a lot to do right now that I know of on Rumble.
And see, folks, this is just how easy it is to get him going.
This is why you don't ask me questions, especially open-ended.
Because I was just trying to say, hey, check us out on YouTube, on Facebook, on
Instagram.
Rumble, Instagram. And
Yep.
Patriot was brave the other day and signed us up for TikTok.
Haven't done anything with it yet.
Haven't done anything yet. So I guess that needs to be more of the lighter side, the things that I cause Patriot to do, that he looks at me and goes, why did I let you talk me into this?
I think your idea was the right one. I think one of the things we'll do with TikTok.
I had a right idea.
I thought it was a great idea. I think actually what we'll do is, especially now that we're pre-recording,
Yes.
is every week when we get ready in the studio and get ready to do the show,
something silly on a TikTok.
we'll do a TikTok video of the prep work, and that's what we'll post onto TikTok at a bare minimum to start.
Because that's where... Unfortunately, Patriot will be in the other room, and I'll do like the test video or something. And like tonight, he's turning and looking at me like, "What is it?" Because I'm over here and I got the videos going and everything, and I'm going testicle, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So, and that's just me. I amuse myself, and out of nowhere, Patriot's like, "Dear God,
so I think brother. TikTok will be a great place for that, right? Not only that, I thought maybe during the week, right? Just during the course of the week, TikTok will be great for Buzz picking up he uses an iPhone. He's one of those iPhone people.
I am not.
Pick up his iPhone.
I do it because my family communicates with me. It's FaceTime.
Because my family.
Oh, dude, trust me. I miss my Samsung. The camera on the Samsungs are amazing, but we're not going to go into that.
Okay,
We're not
never
here to-
mind.
Oh, geez, we just plugged 2 companies in one show. It's like,
I'm
oh
not
my
plugging.
gosh.
I'm not plugging
So
anybody.
send those checks, Apple and Samsung, too.
No, don't send me a check. I'm a Mac bigot. I don't like Mac. I don't like them. Don't care.
You see, once again, how easy it is to get.
I like the Microsoft Evil Empire.
We all do.
It's the evil.
great
They're
thing.
all evil empires. It doesn't matter.
Exactly. So we'll get off that website page now.
Okay.
If you'll notice, we got plenty of new backdrops because that's what happens when you give Buzz a week off and he decides to get creative while Patriot's over here making his notes.
It's like OCD. He has to be creative. If he doesn't get a chance to be creative, he goes completely off.
Well,
the
because
rails.
most of you that watch the show and see it, I mean, other than the plug at the beginning, every once in a while I have a little segment or something. Most of the time it's on Patriot because he's the talent.
Hey, don't let him fool you. I run everything by him. I tell him what I'm going to talk about. I tell him what we're going to discuss. Does it sound good? Does that sound good? Is that what you want to do? And
Producer.
that's right. He's the producer.
So,
Which, by the way, I want to make sure I'm dropping this one off my plate. I am not getting nailed for this. I promised at several junctures, and I'm going through the videos. I will get through them in the next week or so and get all the stuff that I said. We'll do more of that. We'll come back to that sort of thing. From this point going forward, it's his job.
thankfully, he reminded me because I got to open up. I got a little war board. Did you notice how his hand gets cut off there? Hey, they do that on Glenn Beck too, so I don't want to hear the words because we were sitting there. He's like, "You're the producer, and my hand's getting cut off. What's that about?" I'm like, "Dude, the screen's only so big. I can only
stay within my space
because we each have separate cameras and stuff." Well, it's just what happened. So. At one time, we had talked about put frames around us and stuff I'm like, then your hand's going to go out the frame. What does it matter? But
it's not you. It was me. I was being totally neurotic
Patriot
about
can't
it.
stay within Jazz Hands.
I was totally neurotic about it. For
Patriot
a couple
has
of shows.
to go. Oh, hands going. Look, there's a space.
Yeah.
So
I was just completely neurotic. I'm like, Buzz, we got to do something about this. My hands disappeared. It looks terrible. And then literally, no joke, I'm sitting there one day. I was working. I'm watching. I had the Glenn Beck show on. And the guys were in their little, they've each got their own cameras too.
Yes,
and I noticed
little
all of a
square on
sudden
the screen.
that here on this, multi-million-dollar produced, national, worldwide type show, I'm watching. They're doing the same exact thing. It's
like, oh,
and I
look,
told
hand
Buzz,
cut
I
off
said,
there.
they do the same thing. I said, doesn't matter, forget it.
And since then, I haven't heard a complaint again. I haven't heard, dude, what are you going to do about the whole hand getting cut off?
Well,
thing?
the difference is when you watch some podcasts.
Yes.
Everybody's got cameras on them, but they're sitting in different places.
Yes.
So there's not this proximity where the two cameras have to kind of, so when you see a shot of the one person, it's just this whole space in the room of them.
Yeah.
And, but
I think we ought to go back to the round table.
Well, the round table was cool, but I think the idea you and I had for the room in here is the right one.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that later.
Sorry, folks.
Totally.
We're going way
down
off
the rabbit
path
hole.
here. Way off path here. So, what we've done? We've rambled long enough. I say what we need to do is get into our constitutional moment this week.
Oh, just drop me right into it. There we go.
Why not? He's the talent, folks. I'm going to kick it over to him. Of course, I get to be in the camera. Hi. You know why? I get to be in the camera because I got his notes too.
That's right. Yeah. Look, notes.
I got to bring up my war board while he starts going.
So
do his thing there.
Here's the agenda, not just for this week, but for the weeks leading up to November 8th to the election.
Sweet.
That gives me time to focus. I focus on the election for now. Let's talk about issues and ideas and concepts to do with the election. Then when the election is over, we can do. We're going to do what I have decided to call. I can't help myself. We're going to call it the Jen Psaki Show. After the election, we will do our Circle Back segment where we come back to these issues.
Is that the new modern version of Nickelback? Circle Back.
Circle Back. We're going to do the Jen Psaki Circle Back. That was her favorite thing, and we'll immortalize one of the morons of the left. So it'll be fun. So that will be how this is going to go. So tonight we're going to do the pre-election special session 1. This is going to be session number 1.
Okay.
So I asked Buzz a question while we were having supper this evening, and I said, "Do you know?"
And I didn't know the answer to it.
I said, "Do you know in how many amendments are in the Bill of Rights?" And he didn't know, but he didn't try to BS his way through it. He was just honest.
No, because I told him I was going to answer 12.
But it prompted me to ask this question. And again, because we're pre-recording and we don't have callers, but I want you to think for just a second, right? Number one, ask yourself how many amendments are in the Bill of Rights. If you know that, good. That kudos to you. But everybody knows in some form or another. We know that some of our brethren and sisters do not know exactly what the text is, but a fair portion of the nation has some clue, at least those that are informed. The man on the street interviews we see periodically
Oh my God!
other shows tell us.
Do you remember when we did that in Five Points in Columbia, South Carolina?
That was
oh my
so
gosh.
much fun. It was so much fun.
And me, you, and Don. I don't think Jack was with us.
We're
that
totally
evening.
going to do something like that again.
But when
eventually.
we did that, we'd had to walk away and just hang our heads and laugh because we were like, seriously.
We have simple things like, how many states, how many stars are on the flag?
Yeah.
Do you know the first line of the national anthem? We would ask simple things, and it was amazing how many people just looked at you with this blank stare. They couldn't come up with any of it. But
amazing.
Oh my God. So most people have some clue of the First Amendment, at least whatever version they're getting fed through their party, their team, right? So that one has a wide circulation. Everybody, for good or bad, generally has an idea of what the Second Amendment is. At a bare minimum, even the morons in our society understand that it has something to do with guns because they know they hate it, right? But how many people know about the other 8 amendments? See, there, I gave it away. I told you to answer that question, and then I gave it away. So you've got 10 amendments, right?
You should have just answered to begin with.
Sorry. 10. And there's very little knowledge generally on the part of the average citizen, I use that term loosely, regarding the other 8 amendments. Now, I will freely confess that I had a good idea about the 4th and the 5th and the 9th and the 10th. I didn't generally pay, and I had some concept on a regular day-to-day basis on what was in the others, but I spent some time going through it this week and decided that this is why I wanted to have this for the constitutional moment this week. Here's an interesting fact. If you do not know the others and you are not regularly and intimately familiar with the Bill of Rights, out of 10 amendments, 5 of them are related in some way to certain issues, and we'll go over that real quick when we go through these amendments. So I'm going to basically kind of read through them. And as I always point out, guys, this is not a condescending thing. This is not me preaching and, hey, let me tell you how it is, and I'll explain life to you, and you can walk away happy. No, this is us doing it together. I've already said, look, I wasn't regularly familiar with all of them all the time. But let's just kind of run through them real quick, right? Amendment number 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Okay?
Bingo.
Came into play at Mar-a-Lago, right?
Right.
Because what they basically issued there was something called a general warrant, even though that's not what they chose to try and call it, but that's what it was. So that deals with our rights against the government coming in and seizing our effects.
They're supposed to a certain area, a certain thing that they're looking for.
Yes.
They're supposed to list all that stuff and present it before they could come in. They're supposed to under law.
Now, listening to some legal scholars during the course of the Mar-a-Lago issue, that does not mean that if a police officer comes into your house and they have a warrant to look for a gun in the master bedroom closet, for example, I'm exaggerating,
okay.
but
it's a
that
good
doesn't
point.
mean that when they walk by the pile of cocaine on your coffee table that they can't also seize that and charge you.
Oh, but some of these little scumbag lawyers nowadays would be like, no, that you didn't have cause or the proper warrant for that.
But the point here, yeah, right. But the point here is that this is the Constitution, this is the Bill of Rights saying, right, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects. So that pretty much covers it, right? Yourself, your house, your papers and your effects, your possessions, right?
Right.
So the government can't just come in willy-nilly, seize your stuff or you, and do whatever they will with it. Now, we'll have discussions at some time in the future, with which Buzz will make a note about the idea of how the government regularly violates this sort of thing. We'll talk a little bit about things like the Patriot Act and stuff that, they really have found ways to get around this sort of stuff. And they do it because we generally don't fight back, right? So let's go to Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Now, here again, back to that idea of the government being able to misuse you, right? Abuse you, take advantage of you. The government can't make you testify against yourself. They have to have an indictment, okay, or presentment in order to prosecute you for these things, right? And, it puts in the piece here that you are not to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Hello, January 6th protesters, anybody? Right?
Yeah.
Still not in trial, still not getting what they're supposed to be getting, okay? Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, this also applies heavily to January 6th, but again, about the government dealing with us. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial.
And that has been, oh my gosh.
Yep.
We can't count how many decades that has been gone.
Yeah.
People sitting there 3 and 4 and 5 years before you ever bring them to court. And here's the part that gets me on that, Patriot. So in the whole legal system, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty.
Now they make you prove your innocence.
Now you got to prove your innocence. And before you're ever even in court, they put you in jail. Mm-hmm. You sit there for that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years until they bring you to trial. You talk about a violation of our Constitution and the amendments and the right of the people.
And a lot of this stems from the Patriot Act, Department of Homeland Security, the things that we allowed the government to enact supposedly on our behalf after 9/11. Okay?
Don't recall ever voting for that.
And the other thing that frustrates me is when we began putting enemy combatants in Gitmo, the lawyers, ACLU and otherwise, just all over the place. Oh, this is wrong. You're detaining these people. There's no trial. You've got this going on. Well, first of all, it was during time of war. They were enemy combatants. Well, it's a conflict, whatever. You had no problem defending them and telling us we needed to let them out. Yeah. But where's all the help for the January 6th people? Where's the public outcry? No. What they are is now we're told they're domestic terrorists. The enemy combatants put in Gitmo, they were people who we were violating their rights. But patriots who, granted, the people who destroyed property, did prosecute them. But prosecute them. Don't just let them sit there and rot.
Right.
Okay, so that's 6. Number 7. In suits at common law where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States than according to the rules of the common law. Now, that was a little confusing, I know, for a lot of people. I had to read some additional data on it, some additional
a lot of that stuff's handled in, like, civil court stuff.
Well,
like that.
yeah, it's basically pointing at civil court, but it talks about some of the rights we've got. You have a right to demand a trial by jury when it comes to a civil deal. And what it brought to mind for me was this stuff with Alex Jones where they're suing him and going after him. But it's beyond my legal comprehension to get into all the pieces of it. But again, so that's 4, 5, 6, and 7, all dealing with legal issues and stating up front from a constitutional perspective, from the supreme law of the land, things that the government either must do and grant, and provide to us in accordance with our rights, or things the government simply cannot do to violate our rights, right?
Right.
And then let's go to number 8, right? Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. Now, again, that one wasn't specific to anything right now that I'm talking about, although I find it interesting that the idea of cruel and unusual punishment is dragged out regularly when it comes to us executing murderers and all kinds of things that happen in the legal system. But some of the stuff that we hear going on with these January 6th defendants, where they're being denied medical care, they're being kept in solitary confinement. I listened to a gentleman speaking a couple of weeks ago talking about how there were numerous reports of January 6 protesters that were in jail, and the food they were getting had maggots in it, that they were not being properly cared for, that their clothing would go out to the laundry and come back with urine stains on it when it was given back to them, that sort of stuff. And it goes with something I heard yesterday. Someone said, actually, the quote-unquote, by the news, disgraced FBI agent who came out as a whistleblower that said that they are working as hard as they can in the FBI to make the process itself the punishment, because they know that they're not going to get convictions on these people. The video, there's too much video there. There's too many things at stake, and too much evidence that they were not running an insurrection, that they have to make it as uncomfortable and as much punishment as they can make it in the process itself. So, anyway, so that was the stuff I wanted to cover in the constitutional moment this week. All right, just basically, I know that seems superfluous that we just sort of ran through 5 amendments, but I want you to catalog those, keep them in your mind, and more importantly, again, I think I sort of made this challenge in first or second episode that we did when we came back. Take some time, right? Not on the level with God's word at all, not what I'm saying, but we ought to be taking some time each day to study the word. Take a little time each week, some time to read a little bit of the Constitution, understand it, to see what it says, right?
And the word of the week was superfluous, because I thought he called me a bad word there for a second.
Superfluous.
So,
I'm sorry.
Look it up. Sorry. He does that to me all the time. He actually will sit there and...
I put it in the wrong place.
Yes, you did.
Kirk and Kevin. I used to drive Kirk and Kevin nuts. And think, why do you use that word when you could just say...
Yeah. See, he does that to me, and I have word of the day: toilet paper. No, I'm just kidding. God. So.
I'm sorry. That's the end for the constitutional moment.
Sweet.
There will be more as we go through this election season, getting ready for November 8th.
Yep.
But that's kind of the starter, and take that for what it's worth. There'll be other pieces, I'm sure, as we go along that'll all connect.
I'm sure, because all it takes is something to happen, and Patriot's like, I know what we're doing this week. And I'm like, great. I don't.
Sorry.
I kind of fly by the seat of my pants. I get in here, I throw things together, I do stuff, and then Patriot's like, where? Patriot plans for days.
Analytical, creative.
I plan for minutes, and I'm like, oh, I know what I'm going to do this week.
Yeah, I need time. I got to get things together. The worst part is when I'm planning something and I've got a thought in my head during the course of the week from the last show, and the day before the show I think, oh no, I know exactly what to do this week. Now I've got to go do all new research for this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
So
anyway.
Well, with that, I think I know what time we're getting ready to hit into right now.
What's that?
I know what's coming. It's time for Patriot Soapbox.
Yep. Still related to the election.
Woohoo! Ah, yeah. Political man walking.
Yep.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Ultraman's not getting the camera here. There we go.
Oh, my gosh. You and your Ultraman.
So, okay. So we're going to start with some simple items, getting ready for the election, things that I think are worth sort of discussing, at least throwing out there, sort of putting them out there on the table so everybody can grab a hold of them and talk to your friends, your family, other people. They're things that we've been, as a society, have been discussed and hashed and rehashed and argued about now for a few years. It's been an ongoing deal. And I thought to myself, this fight that we've been having over this seems to me something that we just keep pushing and engineering from one side or the other because we're just bound and determined to beat each other into submission. But I thought, okay, is it possible for us to talk about this and think about it individually and as a group here? And just look at it from a logical standpoint. I know that's hard to do sometimes, and it's not like I have a plethora of leftist listeners to the show, so we're all generally homogenous in our views. Not completely, not insinuating that everybody believes the way I do, because it's probably not true. But so I thought, and I'll start off so that you guys get an idea where we're going. We're going to start with one item, voter ID. Let's talk about voter ID for a second. Now, I think I saw a statistic that said something around 2/3 of the states now require some form of voter ID for you to vote, right? And if you pay attention to the news and you are relatively well informed and you watch various media sources, you've been hearing for the longest time this trope that, oh, it's racist, oh, it's not fair. And inevitably, unfortunately, someone on the left will say, well, poor people just don't have the resources. They can't. That's too hard on them to get voter ID. Or poor people, they can't get there and they can't do this. That to me, and I'm just going to say it, that to me is because what they mean is, and you know from the way they argue it when they tell you about the minority communities, what they mean is not poor people. What they mean is black people, Hispanic people. They mean minorities. Can't do it. And it's the same thing you hear repeatedly based on certain political ideologies where there's this equating of people's race, ethnicity, financial status to their inability to comply with the law or with rules or to get things done. Like somehow they're incapable of caring for themselves. And I say that, I went into that because this voter ID has been a central issue with that. I don't know how many times I've heard from pundits on Fox News, CNN, this, that, and the other, all the time. You hear it from these people. Oh, it's just unreasonable to expect people to do that. Never mind that in most of the states that I'm aware of where they've enacted some form of voter ID, they tell you it's free. We'll give it to you for free. You just have to, you just come in, sign up, get the thing. Actually, one or two of the states, I think, even agreed to provide it for them and deliver it or whatever. I mean, they do everything they can to make it easy, so this is straightforward and simple. Now, I've heard it equated to poll taxes and all kinds of nonsense. It's not. It has nothing to do with poll tax or IQ tests or anything like that. It's not creating a new voter qualification. It's simply saying, you are Bob Smith, you reside at this address, this is who you are, you've got a social security number and all that, and we just want to make sure that you are who you say you are. We're going to take your picture, put you on an ID, and when you vote, we're going to look, it's Bob. There it is, right? Because the alternative is you just show up anytime you want. You go, well, I'm Bob Smith. Well, which Bob Smith? I reside at this address. Oh, okay, well, you are who you say you are, obviously. We'll just let you vote. And then Bob shows up an hour later to vote, and they go, well, you already voted. Now, I don't even want to, thankfully, pre-recording, I don't have to do this. I don't have to deal with anybody calling and giving me crap about it. But it's not something I want to argue about. It's just simple truth, right? Don't get into me about, voter fraud is not existent and it doesn't happen. It's just like the old adage that even the appearance of impropriety is unacceptable, right? The possibility of voter fraud exists because you're allowing people to come in and vote who are not verifying who they are. So if you're the type of person that says there's no reason to have voter ID, it's absolutely unfair, it's racist, it's hard, it's difficult, you're trying to suppress voters. How? How are you trying to suppress it? Give them a free ID, right? And all I'm saying is verify who you are. That's it. That's it. We're not asking you to tell us how smart you are. We're not asking you to tell us you own property. We're not charging you a poll tax. None of this is going on. No one is trying to suppress legal voters. Now, right there, before we even go through the list of the other stuff that I have to cover, there is the problem. We're talking about trying to verify and make certain that we are counting and processing legal votes of legal citizens who actually have a voting franchise in this country, in the republic. You are a citizen of this nation. You have a right to vote. You're of legal age, the age of majority, and you are permitted to vote. That's it. Has nothing to do with your sex, your race, your creed, your color, your ethnicity, your sexual preference, any of it. Has nothing to do with any of that. You're legal. That's it. Okay? End of discussion. And so voter ID has become such a linchpin of their claims that, oh, we've got to stop this voter ID thing. They're trying to suppress people, suppress the vote. So, and quite frankly, I've been asked for several years now to provide my driver's license when I go to vote. We see your driver's license, and they want to verify your address and make sure that you're in the district, and they look at your picture to make sure you are who you say. There's nothing wrong with that. What's more, I have seen the numbers as high as 85% or somewhere in that neighborhood, that the minority community, the black community, absolutely have no problem with voter ID. This idea that they are incapable of getting an ID of some sort is completely asinine. It's absolutely false. It's totally untrue. So there's that. There's voter ID. Now let's talk about the next one that I think every election season, this comes up in some form or some capacity. Every election season, you get this. Cleansing the voter rolls. And you can hear the leftists screaming in horror right now, right? This, even more so than the voter ID, should be complete common sense. There should be absolutely no argument about this. I don't care if you move from one district to another, okay? And I've heard the argument where they'll say, well, they moved and then they moved back, and if we'd have cleansed them, they'd have... Yeah, that's right. You moved, now you're off the voter roll, okay? And if you move to a new district, you should be registering there. I had to do it when I moved from Jacksonville to Zephyr Hills, or St. Augustine to Zephyr Hills. I had to re-register over here with this district. And if I decided to pick up in 6 months and move back to St. Augustine, I would have to register in St. Augustine. And I'd have to register my vehicle and do all this stuff to prove I'm a resident of St. Augustine. It's normal, folks. There's nothing excessive about this. It's part of daily life. You just do it. It's not a big deal, okay? And they're shouting and screaming about it. And not only that, you ought to be removing people who leave the district, right? Number two, I'm sorry, if you're dead, you shouldn't be on the voter roll.
That one always gets me.
I have yet, and what amazes me is when you see the news story, where there's some election official standing there completely straight-faced and serious, explaining, well, we have to be really careful who we purge from the... Folks, they're dead.
You can purge them.
You can purge them.
You're not going to get a lawsuit from them that they can't vote anymore.
Now, I heard one guy explain one time. He said, well, I've got 12 David Smiths in this district, okay? If you can't tell the difference between the David Smiths and determine which one died, then your registration process for voters, okay, for example, voter ID and all this, is probably not nearly strenuous enough. If you can't tell the difference between 12 different people in your district, then you have a problem with your process. Fix it. Okay? I mean, they go on, they get registered, you get a death certificate, everything is there. Those people should be removed from the voter rolls. If the election officials in a given county, city, state cannot handle purging dead people from the voter rolls, then they have the wrong job. They should be impeached and removed from office, and the people should put someone in there who actually is probably OCD and will go after making sure that we keep the right people on the voter rolls. That's, again, it's a common sense process. There should never, ever be an argument about purging dead people from the voter rolls. It just shouldn't happen. That one always amazes me. And, the other thing is, and this one, I've seen, this is the other item on voter rolls that have been discussed. People who do not vote. You register and then they just don't vote. Or they voted for years and then they stopped. They gave up. They lost interest. They don't believe their vote counts. They're not voting. There should absolutely be a fixed time period that if you are inactive, done.
Yes.
Finished. For Pete's sake, okay? My phone takes apps I do not use and automatically deactivates them so they're not using memory.
Yeah, you get a little notification saying, hey, you haven't used these apps in a while. Do you want to clear them off your phone?
It's common sense. You're not using it. Why should it be taking up space and being a potential problem? And not only that, the dead people and the folks who are not voting, those are your biggest targets for potential fraud because they look at those rolls. They can go on. It's public record. You can go look at that and find out who's active and who's not active. You know who to use to cheat with. I mean, it's like... This is why, and I'm sorry for anybody that thinks that I'm nuts about this. I apologize, but it's just the truth. If you leave dead people and people who are not voting and people that have moved out of the district on the voting rolls, cheaters will find them and use them. And I don't even care. I'm not even getting into whether it's the left or the right or the other. The simple truth is political cheaters will use those voters' IDs, their identities, to cast invalid ballots. And that goes to the entire ecosystem of saying voter ID, proving your registration, purging the voter rolls of people who do not need to be on the rolls, whether they are dead, not being used, or they've moved, okay? And making sure that the people that are there are valid voters, therefore minimizing the potential for fraud. And it solves a lot of these arguments that go on afterwards. So my thing to you is, you watch the news, you pay attention to the cycle, and every time some election official or party official gets out there and tells you it's racist to purge the voting rolls and we don't need voter ID, and those are the people trying to cheat. It's simple. If they're out there defending things that leave us less secure in our voting, then those are the people trying to cheat. Don't vote for those people. Problem solved.
There you go.
Right?
There you go.
Now let's talk about, here's one that's probably, now we're starting to get into stuff where, I'm going to regret saying this, but I'm going to say now we're into the items where there's some room for discussion and understanding. Now, me personally, if it was up to me, there would be election day, election day,
There you go.
from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. or whatever it is.
8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Give them 12 hours.
Okay.
There you go.
And that's it. You're done. Now,
Period. Bingo.
with election day, you're kind of obligated. There has to be an absentee system because you have military personnel serving overseas. You have military personnel who are in the United States, who are a resident of Alabama. They've just been assigned to a military base in wherever, and they need to have access to that, right?
Sure.
You also have government employees, people from the Department of State and everything, although we'll probably at some point talk about the Department of State and how much we ought to downsize that lousy, filthy organization.
Well, I don't want to hear they can't track down those people that are absentee. Hell, the IRS can figure out where the heck you're at any given time. Move on the IRS and see if you still don't get anything when they audit you. They'll find you. Oh, but we can't do that for the voters.
Now,
which is more important.
So you got military personnel, government employees, right? And folks that are employed by companies that are assigned overseas to other countries. So if I'm working for a company, a private company,
sure,
and I'm in Bangladesh or wherever it is I'm at, running the factory and doing that, I ought to be able to get an absentee ballot.
It's a good hometown word, folks.
All right. I got no problem with any of those. Those are valid reasons for having an absentee ballot. And in the case of the first two, these are government-oriented employees. There should be a clear process on the base or at the government facility where you're working, wherever it is in the world, that permits you to cast your legal, verified ballot and have it transmitted to your home district so that there is no problem. No problem. That's a no-brainer. If you can't figure that out, once again, you're too stupid to be running anything and we need to replace you. You know, now, on the private employees, this is the kind of deal where, first and foremost, under no circumstances do absentee ballots get automatically sent to anyone. You got to request it, verify your identity, prove it, and when
it's not an automatic send.
No, and when it comes back, there should be I don't know how we're going to do it exactly or how they do it today. In my mind, there ought to be a verifiable copy of your photo ID inside the ballot that they can throw out when they get it and they verified it. along with your signature and all that, there should be a verification for that, right?
Yeah.
That's simple, right? That's an absentee process. I'm okay with that, all right? But election day, other than those people on absentee, okay? Election day, not election week, month,
Year.
season.
Yeah, season. That's the one that gets me, season.
We're not doing any of that. You have one day. I don't remember ever when I was younger that there was this process where you had weeks to vote.
No, they honestly, think about it. When we first registered, I know because even when I first registered, they advertised the living crap out of, don't forget election day. Don't forget election day. Of course, you saw all the ad campaigns, which that's a whole nother show we need to talk about. Oh, my gosh, ad campaigns.
Put that on your list.
Yeah, I'll put that on the list. But, I mean, it was always an election day.
Yeah. It's... Now, I've talked about the absentee ballot. Let's talk about early voting. I'm sorry. This is one I've got a real problem with because I do not recall early voting when I was younger.
We didn't have it when we were younger.
I don't recall. Now, maybe somebody had it in some state.
Maybe it was part of the shady underground back then. I don't know.
I don't know.
That's out in the open now.
But my thing is, why do we need early voting? I want to know. I want someone to tell me. If you're listening to this show, even record, send an email, admin@garagepolitics.net. If you can give me a reasonable justification
why there's
for
early voting.
Early voting. Why is it required? I want to hear from you why it's required. The only thing I could come up with in my mind for early voting was, okay, I'm not living out of my district, so I wouldn't technically qualify for an absentee ballot. However, I work a job, second shift, something like that, that precludes me from being there.
The only other thing I could think of,
Yeah.
You're going you're into the military.
Right.
You're getting ready to be deployed. You will actually be out in the field. You'll be...
And there's not enough time to get an absentee
ballot. And there's
ballot.
not enough time to get your absentee ballot. Okay, early voting in the case of, all right, you're being deployed. You're not going to be around when the voting's going on. You won't be... So, all right, there's a justifiable reason. There we go.
That's the kind of thing that I would say, okay, I'm fine with that. But you have to validate and show purpose for voting early. We have to be able to look at it and go,
he's being deployed.
You're a valid early vote. You're good. Not just, hey, we're going to take votes anywhere in this month. You just come on in and cast your ballot. Because the longer
I'm 67 and I'm just that day on voting days. I don't go out on Tuesdays. I need a ballot early because I don't like to leave my recliner after that point.
My reasoning behind that whole process is the more votes you take in early, the longer ahead of the actual election that you get those votes, again,
the more it could be tampered.
The more opportunity for fraud and tampering. I'm sorry. I don't care whether you are living in unicorn land where everything is just happy, and you think that nobody ever commits fraud. You're just wrong-headed. You're wrong. Okay, it absolutely does happen. There's a reason everyone used to talk about the Chicago machine, okay, that was born, raised, and lived, fully existed on fraud and intimidation and all of these sorts of things. So don't tell me that fraud doesn't happen. It absolutely does.
I'm just excited that Patriot said unicorn.
Unicorn. See, you were a little slow on that. You should have got that unicorn out there. So that covers election day, early voting, absentee voting, right?
All right. Man, we're burning through here. I like it.
Well, the thing is, I'm okay with us having this sort of stuff if there's a justifiable reason, right?
Okay.
All right. Now, that was sort of my primer on general election issues. Now, we're not talking about policy issues that we're discussing right now. Hopefully, I'll have some time for some policy issues in this election as we move forward, right?
Right.
But now, in really actually in the spirit of the soapbox, I think Buzz heard me while I was doing the prep for the show tonight. I actually ran across something that almost made my head explode.
And here we go.
Why so serious?
I wasn't going to say it, but you did.
I did. So, now, I pulled this up on the web. It was a search. It was totally by accident. I was actually looking for various issues and ended up with this website called Governing. Okay, it says the future of states and localities. Now, I didn't dig too much further into the actual website itself. However, this particular story, and let me read you the headline. Contentious fringe legal theory could reshape state election laws. Now, that sounds very ominous, doesn't it? Doesn't that sound terrible?
It does.
I mean, it's like contentious fringe legal theory. It's sort of like taking a patriotic protester and saying, these domestic terrorists, okay? It's the same sort of transformation that goes on. And I thought, okay. And I saw a comment about the Supreme Court as I was sort of browsing it and thought, all right, now I have to read. So this thing, before I read the piece, I pulled up and I asked, it says, this story is a collaboration between State Line and Spotlight PA. Okay? Now, I've told you guys before, other things that I've said, I haven't really gotten into the various PACs and political groups and that sort of stuff. But I think it's important. It's something that I try to do with everything that I read or take in. Whenever I find a story, I have learned over the years, just because you find something that looks like it matches up with your principles, your beliefs, do not take it at face value. Do not trust it, because I can't tell you how many times I've been burned on social media when I was younger going, oh, that sounds like a great story. I'll tell you the story one day about Captain Kangaroo, and we'll do that. That'll be fun. Anyway, so this group called State Line and Spotlight PA. So I pulled up the information. State Line is funded by the Pew Charitable Trusts. Okay?
Pew, pew, pew.
PEW, Pew Charitable Trusts.
Pew, pew.
If you don't know anything about them, take a look, all right? The other group, Spotlight PA, is funded by everybody's favorite labor unions, all right? So these are groups in Pennsylvania that definitely have a vested interest in making sure that the types of things that were done in 2020 continue. That the Nancy Pelosi championed voter rights thing, whatever that law was they were trying to pass, which would nationalize elections, that sort of thing. So anyway, here's a line from the headline. It says, legal scholars argue the quote-unquote independent state legislature doctrine is a radical theory that could disenfranchise voters. Now, stop there for just a moment. I'm running short on time. We're gonna run out of time here very soon. But let me say this to you. It's not fair to just paint everybody with it, but I will tell you right now that in my experience over the past, we'll compress it down to the last 10 years, okay? In my experience, every time someone does a story or says something to you and they say, oh, it's going to disenfranchise voters, 98% of the time, they're on the left. And what they're saying is, you're going to prevent us from having access to dead voters, people who have moved out of the district, and people who no longer vote in the district so that we could use those for false votes to help ourselves win. Okay? That's just my opinion, right? I'm sure everybody else has their own opinion. Run with that. That's good. Go ahead and do it.
Run!
So here's and then as I went into the story, right? This was fun. Legal experts, and I love the way they always use legal experts. Who? Which legal experts? They never cite a person. There's always just these generic
legal experts.
The generic statements and platitudes in most of these stories that are designed to give you this feeling when you read it. You're supposed to go, oh, that's horrible, until you read through it and realize that what you've just read was a bunch of nonsense. None of it actually, there's no specifics.
No.
Just an opinion, just a view, and it's going to disenfranchise voters. We don't know which voters. We're left to figure that out on our own. Of course, they want to insinuate, but you're just supposed to figure it out, right? So legal experts and voting rights advocates they're warning us. The independent state legislature doctrine could radically alter election administration across the country and siphon power away from courts and toward the legislatures that write election law. Now wait a second.
Siphon power from the
Hold
courts.
No, I'm not. You know what? I'm not attacking that one just yet. Just hold on. This is too fun. That would leave partisan politicians rather than independent administrators overseeing elections, possibly even overturning results they don't like.
Like getting dead people to vote 30
I mean,
times.
Now I want you to think about what I just read. They're talking about siphoning away power from the legislature or to the legislature from the courts. Folks, the courts do not make law. They don't set the election rules.
Although we see other examples of it daily, them making their own laws and overturning crap because
I should rephrase that.
Yeah,
they're not legally empowered to make law, but they do all the time. They legislate from the bench regularly, which is what the left generally relies on.
My favorite is every time there's something done that a court in a state or district doesn't like, they go, "Oh, that's unconstitutional. We're overturning that." They don't have that right. They don't have that power, actually. The courts don't.
Yeah. And I love the way it says, siphon power away from the courts and toward the legislatures that write election law.
Somebody needs to take that so-called what they think they have as power away from, because they don't have that power.
I love the way every time the left gets angry about something that hasn't gone their way.
The spew that they go on?
Well, it's at that time. Now, never mind the fact that there is never a moment in your life that politicians, well, except for weak-kneed Republicans, there's never a time in your life that politicians are not partisan. By its very nature, politics, by and large, is partisan.
Right.
Now, even if we manage to get rid of even if we manage to get rid of parties, political parties, and get people to focus on being Americans, there would still be partisanship because people disagree.
Yep.
Okay?
Carolyn Shapiro said it the best, though.
What?
About the legislation?
Yeah.
And because wasn't it Carolyn Shapiro?
Yeah.
At Chicago Kent College of Law.
Yep.
The notion that lawmakers are freestanding entities to do anything they want in this context is inconsistent with the constitutional democracy.
And again, it's just like that. So the politicians on the left get in trouble, and now they want to talk about partisan politicians as though they were not.
Yep.
Right? And now we're saying, oh, these legislators, they don't have this kind of power. They're not freestanding. They can't do whatever they want. And the statement she makes at the beginning of her little diatribe there, she says, the legislature is created by the state constitution. No, actually, it really wasn't, per se.
Right.
So it must be limited by it. Now, there may be rules in the state constitution regarding the legislature, okay?
Yeah.
But it was the people of the state that created both the Constitution of the state and the legislature.
Right.
They're the ones that made the decision about that. Once again, the left, they focus on the item. I am a constitutional person. I love the concept of constitutional. I love the republic. I love the idea that we have this the way we have it. But the truth is, again, just remember when we talked about Tocqueville, his comment about underlying virtually every form of government is generally the unrevealed truth that power rests with the people. Okay? Now, we created and made the Constitution and designated it as, it actually says right there that it is the supreme law of the land.
Yes.
Okay? But the states created the federal Constitution and the federal government. The states are a separate group when it comes to this, right? And we'll get into Amendment 9 and 10 at some point in the future and talk more about that. I know I've mentioned it at times, but we'll get into that too, right? But they're basically saying this Carolyn Shapiro is basically saying here, well, these legislatures, they don't have just unlimited power to do whatever they want. No, they don't. but they make the laws. Now, there's a framework, and the supreme law is for them in the state. It's the state constitution and the federal constitution. They have to abide by that, okay? But they still make the laws, and we'll highlight that a little bit more in a moment. The truth is that the U.S. Constitution empowers the legislature to handle election law. Article 1, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution says, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. Now it says, goes on to say,
Yes.
but the Congress may, at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations, except as to the places of choosing senators. Now, that last one was because of the way we originally chose senators was the state legislature appointed them.
Right.
Now, that was offset by the 17th Amendment, so that last little piece there is irrelevant now. Okay? But, now, note that it says Congress may, at any time, by law, make or alter such regulations. Okay? So Congress has the right to take something that's being done. For example, if a state enacted a law that said black people can't vote in our state, trust me, that would be ended in about 30 seconds.
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
That's not going to be tolerated. It's a violation of the Constitution, a violation of the 14th and 15th Amendments. It's, that's a non sequitur. That's not even an issue here. Okay? But the states are empowered to make the election law, to set the regulations and the rules for their state.
Not federal.
It doesn't say the governor. It doesn't say election officials in the state.
Nope.
It doesn't say the state Supreme Court. It doesn't say the state subsidiary courts. None of that. No magistrates, no sheriffs, no mayors, none of them. The state legislature. Pure and simple. This was the core of the argument regarding the 2020 election. Pennsylvania in particular, which right again here, right in the thick of things, Pennsylvania went through the process, their election officials and the Secretary of State in Pennsylvania changing the election rules. Well, it was for COVID. We had to allow these sorts of things.
Bullcrap.
They're not in the law.
No.
If you wanted them changed, you should have gone to the legislature and gotten the law changed.
Yep.
Period. End of story.
Done.
That simple. And the left tells us, oh, you're trying to suppress the vote. You don't want people vote. There are laws in place, people. This is the unique nature. And I needed to clarify something we've said over the weeks. Now, this is a constitutional republic, okay?
Yep.
And we talked about democracy being, mob rule. Majority wins, right? The founders, some of the other reading I've been doing, the founders weren't exactly so completely enamored with the direct republic concept, and they considered this a democratic process for the republic, okay?
Okay.
But I've also heard it explained other ways that I thought were very appropriate, which says we've got a constitutional republic that is managed with a democratic process, right?
Right.
Because ultimately, in the election of representatives in your district for the House of Representatives, it's a democracy.
Right.
It's the majority vote for that person in that district wins.
Right.
So there are democratic pockets for things that we do, but we elect those people, we send them to Washington to represent our interests and the things that we want done. We expect that to be carried out. But the uniqueness of our nation is that we are not just a democracy. We are not. It's not just done by fiat, as in
Right.
a dictatorship. We're a nation of laws. This republic is based on laws. First and foremost, the Constitution, then the state constitutions, or the laws of the Senate and the House that they put together, the laws of the United States that go into action. And then, the state constitutions and the state legislatures and then the counties and the cities and various municipalities, all that. I'm getting dinged again. I'm running over.
No, that's your 5-minute warning.
Oh, okay.
I review that with him every week. I'm like, dude, when you hear the bell, that's your 5-minute warning. He's like, I'm out of time.
I know. I'm almost there now. But so this thing is problematic because here it is. They're going at it again and they're deciding because there was another story I came across. It was a Pennsylvania election official that said, because the Supreme Court ruling that came through recently, man, I am just tripping all over myself this week.
He's reeling.
The Supreme Court ruling that came through over the last week or two said exactly what we're talking about. The state has laws. You cannot change those election rules without the legislature addressing it. You can't do that. It's unconstitutional. You can't. You're violating the law. You can't do it. And this election official in Pennsylvania said, well, we've established that it's okay, and we're going to do it anyway. To hell with, basically to hell with the Supreme Court. Thumb your nose at them. We're going to do whatever we want. So this is the sort of thing that is causing the angst in the country. This is what causes a lack of trust in the election process. This is what makes people question the election process and wonder, are they conducting fraud? Are they cheating? Because you're just thumbing your nose at the system and deciding that you know what's best. You're going to do whatever you want. To hell with the law, to hell with the Supreme Court, to hell with the people. We know what needs to happen. You sit down and shut up. We don't care that you want a conservative way of doing things. We know what's best for you, and the best thing for you is for us to do what we want to do and tell you what to drive, when to drive it, where to drive it, what job you can have, how much you can make. You can't have savings. You'll work this job. Folks, that's called communism. It's a dictatorship. This is what we're heading for.
Yeah.
And so this is session one. We've gone through some basic items here, okay? I don't care whether you're on the side that said maybe they were fooling with the election in 2020 or whether you're one of those people who go, no, it was the most secure election in the history of the United States. It was pure and clean as wind-driven snow. I really don't care which side of the aisle you're on. Engage your brain. Think.
Yep.
Think about what's happening. The people who want to keep dead people on the voter rolls, they would like to cheat. Yep. There's no other reason for wanting to keep dead people on the voter rolls.
That's
right?
it. To cheat.
The folks who tell you, to hell with it. Look, I may not like the rulings from the Supreme Court. I may think that they are activists at times, but it's the law. It's the law of the land.
Boy, if our society and our population in general would just get back to having some doggone integrity, man. Come on, people.
Go a long way. But
think about it, because it doesn't matter we say it all the time here in the garage that it doesn't matter what side you're on. I don't care what you label yourself. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, a conservative, liberal. It doesn't matter. Have integrity. Demand honesty, folks. When it comes to the voting process, you should want a pure, clean, proper, honest voting system.
Absolutely.
Because if your side, whether you believe in it or not, if your side has to use tactics of keeping dead people on the voter roll and everything like that to win an election, why would you want to be part of that?
Yep.
So
it's the they are doing what they do every election. Think about it. Think about it for a second. One group runs out every election cycle, especially during presidential and midterm elections, not so much on the local, although they do it there as well. Right. They run out and they tell us, you're trying to suppress the vote. You're trying to keep people from casting legitimate votes because you want us to purge the voting rolls and you want us to get dead people and all these people off the voting rolls. So you're trying to keep people from voting. I'm in favor of keeping dead people from voting.
I'm
right
with
here.
you.
I'm there.
I'm
right?
there. I'm good.
They tell us. Notice how everything since 2016.
It's pretty sad.
Everything is these radical Republicans, the radical MAGA, blah blah.
What? Because we don't want zombies voting?
But it's not about whether they're accusing Republicans, conservatives, or anything. It doesn't matter about that. The point is they're trying to make everything sound so scary. Radical people trying to violate the Constitution.
And I'm sick of that word. I've watched so many of our local political ads.
Yes.
She's radical. He's radical. They're radical. Do we want radical? Oh, radical. And I'm like, shut up, people.
By the way, these are the same people. Now, not literally, because they weren't alive then, most of them, except for Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, maybe. These are the same people that when McCarthy went after the communists, the real communists in government and society, when he went after them and called them communists and radicals, okay? Oh, you're just trying to blackball people. You're terrible. Don't talk about people that way.
You're mean.
Same people who opposed McCarthy or would have opposed McCarthy, the same people who supported any kind of radical idea that came along, from socialism to communism to Che Guevara to Castro. Oh, Hugo Chavez is such a nice man. I really like him. I think we should all give him a big hug. I mean, these are the same people
Hugo
that
Chavez,
they love
Go try to hug
every
him.
radical they can find, but they'll turn around and call us the radicals.
Yep.
So All I'm saying is, regardless of where you're at,
Misplaced and misguidance.
think about it. Think about what they're espousing. Remember what I said. Truth is in the action.
Yes.
Truth is not in your words. Okay. Truth can be spoken of. Truth will be there verbally, but the proof of truth is in the actions. The proof of truth is in the validity of it. Okay, what it is, not just in coming out and saying it. Right. Yep. So the people who come and tell you, "Oh, these radicals are trying to destroy our way of life," really? Were we tearing down statues and literally burning towns to the ground? Were we lighting everything on fire and screaming about every tradition and infrastructure and institution that is part of our society?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
No. Are we the people that run around telling everybody, if you don't get my pronouns right, I'm going to ruin your life and cause you to not have a job? No.
Nope.
Just common sense, folks. Every week.
Are we people that don't know how to use a box of tissues? No, we'll offer you a box when your little feelings are hurt.
With all due respect, real quick, to the
Okay.
people who tell me, well, don't use Republican and Democrat. You know what? I'm
That's
just
an
talking
improper
about people
pronoun.
that are involved in the process, okay? It doesn't change the fact that I am a member of the Constitution Party of Florida, that I am basically a patriot and a conservative, and these are my views. This is the thing I do. I don't care about the parties anymore. It's irrelevant to me. The only
We
reason,
used to, but
the reason I did not register as an independent is that independent is really just sort of a catchphrase for I'm a liberal that I don't want anybody to point at.
I don't want anybody to know that I secretly hug trees.
I don't want everybody to, they think I'm an independent thinker. I'm an independent thinker. I have an open mind.
Yes.
Okay, whatever.
Save the 50,000 species of birds. They're all extinct. Unless you're in Texas, then you can hunt them.
So
speaking
anyway,
of
that's it for me, man.
that sound was for shout out. Now, we do our weekly shout out. Now, I took care of this week. Now, I know historically, typically here in the garage, we've done a shout out for military, first responders, things like that.
Yeah.
I think our shout outs ought to be for just decent people.
I'm good with that.
Decent
I like
people.
that idea.
So this week's shout out is going to go all the way out to Odessa, Texas.
Okay.
And we're going to give a shout out to Jackie Flores. Jackie Flores is a teacher at Ector College Prep. Recently, she had her 6th and 8th grade students create thank you cards backing the blue and taking bags of candy to them just as a way of saying, hey, thanks for all you do with our community and for putting your lives on the line every time you put that badge on and go out and represent us. So,
why is that so hard? That's friggin' awesome.
Huge shout out
That
to
is
Jackie
spectacular.
Flores. Keep up the good work. Keep empowering those children to realize, back the right thing. Good
Yep.
job.
I
There's
love
our
that.
shout out
I
for
love
this
that.
week.
And you know what? As always, we love our firefighters, our police, our military.
Oh, you betcha.
Wherever you are in the world and wherever you are each day, God bless you. Stay safe, and we love you.
Yeah, all of our military, both here and afar, that are deployed, that you're away from your families. God bless you. God bless the families that are here, waiting for them
Yep.
on a bed of nails just daily when they're deployed like that. We always shout out to them, and they're always in our hearts. They're always on our mind because we know what they do. It's our patriots that are fighting for us, those that are overseas, protecting our borders, protecting us. Those are the people that give us the freedom that we have. It still hasn't been.
I had a request this week, by the way.
Oh, what's the request?
Dark Wolf would like a couple of T-shirts.
Dark Wolf would like a couple of T-shirts.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll have to get some T-shirts.
Well, I tell you what, Dark Wolf, I will make sure as also the merchandise producer, I will get you a couple of T-shirts. Do me a favor, text the big dog over here your sizes.
Large and medium.
All right, never mind. I got your sizes. I'll get you a couple of shirts made.
And while you're making those two, maybe you make up a third one in large.
Yeah.
And we find out how to get a hold of Jackie and send her one.
Ooh, wouldn't that be cool? Since she, you know what? Let's do that.
So get there. Do it in maybe medium or large, one of the two. I don't
Medium
know.
or large.
You
Okay.
do it large at least.
And we'll send it out to the college or to the school out there.
To the prep school.
To the prep school. That way it's safe and
And
everything.
tell
We'll send
them
it
who
in a nice envelope and we'll let
So
them
don't lose that article so you know to get a hold of her, and we'll send her a
okay,
shirt.
so let's see.
Jackie
Hold on.
Flores, right?
Shirt, merch, Dark Wolf, and
You never want to see how they make the
Jackie
sausage, right?
Flores. Shut up. My gosh, I tell you what. So just as a reminder, once again, Website, www.garagepolitics.com. Go there, check it out. You can see past shows. You can see old parodies. You can see all the old archives. Is the photo archives up yet? No, still not.
No photo archives.
Eventually.
It takes more time to do photo archives.
Eventually, one of these days, we're not worried about that. We're worried about right now getting people to subscribe, like on YouTube and Rumble.
Yep.
Hit us up on those, guys. We like it. Go to both of them. You don't have to be biased. Don't go to just one. Go to both, because when we get banned on the one, we're there at the other. So, and with that, I don't really have anything else. I think
I'm ready to go,
Patriot's
man.
all aired out. And guys, we had a great time here in the garage. Don't forget to check us out weekly. We'll be recording the show until you all subscribe and like us enough that we are actually back live on the airwaves.
Make sure you check Facebook and the website.
Yes.
If there's ever going to be a show that we miss for any reason, I will have a note there letting you know.
And actually, just started tonight. It was great. Actually, when we started recording the show, we were here in the studio. We tweeted it. So check us out on Twitter.
If you subscribe to the Twitter, then it's
the Garage Kings. No spaces. All the words together, The Garage Kings. And you'll get an alert if you're subscribed to us on there and following us.
I'm trying to remember to post a little something to Twitter each day.
You tweet and I'll tick.
You're going to tick? You do the TikToks
I'll do the
and I'll do the
TikTok
tweets. That's a fair trade. I'll take that.
That's a fair trade. So Twitter boy
so
over
you
there
talk
and
to
I'll
the
be
Chinese
TikTok-y.
Communist Party and I'll deal with the
That's so
crap
they
show
can track
that is
us.
Twitter. All right.
All right.
Sounds good.
And with that, guys, we're going to sign off and say, hey, we'll see you next week
in the garage.
You betcha.